Good morning, everybody. Grand rising out there. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday. We got a great show for you because you know the city is buzzing. Lots of news out there on the ground. I got to throw it over to my guy, my one and only Big O. What's up, O?
What's happening?
You copying me today, man.
We twinned up out here. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, it's all about black and gold today, baby.
And the thing is like, yeah, you're all matched up, and it was by chance.
Yeah.
So this is good. Great minds think alike.
There we go.
Man, busy day today. We've got community organizer Nikita Oliver. She's going to be joining us here in a later segment to talk about everything that's happening on the streets and in City Hall. Today's day number 2 in the new studio.
That's right. That's right. We're making it, man.
Yeah, we're making it. We also did a live show yesterday. A big shout out and thank you to Tony B from Rainier Avenue Radio and Marcus Harrison Green of the South Seattle Emerald. We kind of talked about the protest and progress from the black media perspective, and also what black people are thinking.
Right.
And then the conversation also expanded even beyond that. So we had a great time yesterday. And thank you to our live producer, director yesterday, Carlos Limani, and our show producer, Nikki Barron.
Yeah, it was great, man. I loved it. I mean, again, I also love seeing Converge grow with our capabilities, man. Pulling in the live feeds from these guys. I mean, it was great, man. I loved it.
We're growing, and we're growing thanks to you. So I also want to say thank you to everybody who's been supportive of us here at Converge, not only here in Seattle, but literally all around the world. And thank you so much. It's because of your support that we're able to do what we're able to do. And man, we're gonna need your support again soon. We're gonna get a communications package together here, man, let you know our requirements so we can start working on building out this studio. A few things, unfortunately, the M's, they took an L last night, 2-4 down in Texas. Man,
what's their record now?
Man, don't worry about all that. Just know they still in the fight.
All right,
you know what I'm saying? Look, black community done taking a lot of L's, but we still in the fight. So you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I still got my fresh M's hat on.
Yeah, no, that's a dope M's hat.
Voila.
Yeah, that's a dope.
They're back in Texas again tonight. We're gonna jump right into it first, and of course we'll talk about the other big news out there, Kamala Harris and Biden. Yeah. But as usual, we want to try to put community on the top of the news. So the other day, Eric Calligraphy, the great Eric Calligraphy, as well as producer Nikki Barron, they produced an episode for today, which is Wellness Wednesday. You saw me out there drinking my juice from BB Juice and everything else. They're trying to get us to do some exercise around the block. I heard that Nikita Oliver, she stays in it too. Man, she might be able to give us some tips.
She got to train us, man.
On fitness. But here it is. Here's our Wellness Wednesday segment right here with Eric Calligraphy, produced by Nikki Barron.
It's all about moving your waist and below. Okay. So hold your stomach in, and that'll take pressure off your lower back. If you're at a point that
get this
okay.
Oh,
I'm so trash at this.
Oh, no, you're not. You're going to be great at this.
I don't even think this is my lane.
Okay.
What's up, everybody? This is Eric Calligraphy, and we are having another episode of That's Good Business. And I'm here with the wonderful Trisha, who runs Seattle Twerk Shop.
So Seattle Twerk Shop it's actually 3 things. It's a twerk team, so a performance group. It's also a dance fitness brand, and it's a choreography brand as well. So, okay, I'm originally from New Orleans, of course, and used to dance there. And my family's really involved in the music industry in New Orleans. I was doing a lot of Zumba and other dance fitness classes, and I decided, hey, why don't I bring New Orleans in class form here? So it started off as a dance fitness. It's based on Mapuka, and Mapuka is more the West African form of twerking, so where it came from. We also include Afro beats. Of course, twerk, New Orleans bounce style twerk, Atlanta style twerk, Miami twerk, as well as we infuse soca. So twerking, the word twerk comes from New Orleans. And of course, the driving beat behind it was New Orleans bounce. But it all comes from Africa, so from African dance movements. For our classes, we take all levels. So from someone who has never twerked before, up to someone who can completely, yeah, we are vertical, horizontal, upside down, we do everything. So,
How can people join the Seattle Twerk Shop?
okay, you can find us online. So right now, we're doing most of our classes as well as parties and performances online. So you go to seattletwerkshop.com.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm scared. All right.
No, don't be scared. Don't be scared.
No, I can't dance. So you're also gonna have to twerk.
Bring it down.
Moving underground. Young head, we're gonna switch cameras. There you go, Nikki. Shake that ass.
So I hope, period.
Hey, you got a PG's ass. Shit be looking right. You get the dancing in the mirror. You want some shit that get you right. Gave a couple
Kayla. I remember
How you feeling, Nikki?
Omari, it's your turn!
Yeah, all right. You know, now that they played the ending, they wouldn't let me watch the segment beforehand. I was like, this is weird. They're not letting me watch the segment.
Gotta love that.
Treyana, it's your turn.
Now, look, you got nothing to say. All I can say is, once again, innovation, man, innovation. I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, literally, so you gotta love that. And I love the story of her bringing it from New Orleans, bringing that arts and culture and flair up here to the Pacific Northwest, man. I'm not mad at that at all, man. Make it do what it do.
Man, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a lot before I'm ready for
Before you're ready for that class, huh?
to join in right there. Again, that's Wellness Wednesdays. The best thing is like we're kind of finding our feet again. These are the type of segments that we had really before the protests broke out, highlighting health and wellness in our community. So every Wednesday you can see that. And then also, you know, this guy Eric is staying busy on the street. He has another segment he does, which is called Good for Business. Yeah. And he must have convinced Nikki on that, because, you know, Eric likes to eat, and it's all about Eric visiting his favorite restaurant.
Right.
So if you guys see Eric Calligraphy out there, man, you know, give him some love. Moving on to the other big news the other day on a local level here is, of course, the retirement. Chief Best retired yesterday. We carried some of the press conference right here. And there's been varied feedback across communities and different areas of how people feel about it. We got a very short segment up here first from King 5.
Well, that's right. The president of Downtown Seattle Association is calling it a sad day for the city of Seattle. Others who've worked with Chief Best for years say they take issue with the way she was treated by city council.
Devastated. I feel like it's a death.
That is Victoria Beach's reaction to Chief Best announcing her retirement. Beach is the chair of the African American Community Advisory Council, which works with the police department to address issues in the community.
It's a huge loss. I mean, I think our community's in trouble. We are in big trouble without her.
Chief Best is stepping away after serving the department for nearly 30 years.
I remember when she was a beat cop and became captain and then assistant chief.
Pastor Kenneth Ransford says he's seen her at work in the community.
Of course, I care about these issues.
And he's been paying attention to what's been happening in Seattle City Council meetings.
Do you feel like she was treated fairly?
No. All right, so we're just gonna run through a few of these tweets here, okay? So first up, oh yeah, you go pop this up. Ron Sims, we got Ron Sims up there. All right, so Ron Sims, as a black man, I found the Seattle City Council's treatment of Chief Best to be incredibly offensive. They'll say that they are liberals. I don't give them the license to publicly humiliate the first African-American woman to be chief of police in Seattle's history. I'm gonna tell you, the council is, man, shots fired. Nobody's happy with the council. Next, speaking of council, there was one council member who was absent, and that's Juarez. And so here is Council Member Juarez. All right. and this was put out through the council's Twitter, but council member Juarez's statement, Chief Carmen Best has dedicated nearly 30 years of service to the people of Seattle, and for that I'm incredibly grateful. We have a better police department and a better city because of her. All right. And then, so then next up, I reached out to King County Council member Gurmai Zahalai, whose district actually covers the Central District, the South End, parts really from the University of Washington, the Skyway is his district. And I asked King County Council member Zahalai if he had any statement, and what he says, outside of saying that we need to keep up the good work. Thank you. I wish Chief Best all the best in her next chapter. I hope that she'll maintain a role in our city in supporting the Black-led movements, demanding transformational change to our systems of public safety. Her voice and advocacy will continue to be critical in bringing about justice for Black people in Seattle and King County. So that's that. Now, of course, there were some other opinions that came out yesterday as well. This is Divest Seattle, or Divest SP, at Divest SPD Twitter. Chief Best tweets here, I won't miss these press conferences, I'll tell you that. Divest SPD says, we won't miss your BSing us constantly either. Well, let's see, they didn't mention any words there. Seattle Protest Network. They're kind of throwing something. They're letting Chief Diaz know that he's what he's walking into here. Basically, on their Twitter, they've captured some audio from SPD, and they have quite a bit of audio. You know, they monitor the radios, and so they have a clip they have up there where. An officer is saying something. You listen for yourself. But basically they said, hey, Adrian Diaz, looks like you got your work cut out for you. And so that's Seattle Protest Network. And then also I showed you Ron Sims' tweet earlier. And this was a reply by Nikita Oliver. And we'll talk to her here later segment, where Ron Sims says, you know, as a Black man, I found the Seattle City Council's treatment of Chief Best to be incredibly offensive. Nikita Oliver replied, Best chose to be chief of an institution that has perpetuated racist policies and practices and perpetuated much harm on communities, not to mention the violent policing of the recent protests. She could have chose to whistleblow, but she protected the status quo. And yeah, so as we can see, there's a lot of different opinions about Chief Best and about her retirement. You have a lot of establishment. Like I said, Ron Sims, around for a long time, doing his thing. You have a new politician, Zahalai, who's like, you know, hopes that she continue to work for improving policing. You got Divest SPD, that's it. And then of course, Nikita Oliver. And so, you know, we wanted to be able to give the public, though, a wide spectrum of response.
Yeah, I mean, that once again, showcasing the wide variety of discourse and characteristics that really embody this particular situation in the city. I think, again, so many of the constituents of the Emerald City are learning through this process, right? They're learning either where their elected officials stand, they're learning where certain institutions stand. I mean, I think this is really a zeitgeist, a sign of the times, where so much of us are learning about the institutions.
I think that one of the funny things, though, like I say, this is like Juarez has kind of stood her ground, you know, on a lot of different things. And when people just come out and they're like, no, then all you can do is respect the fact that they said no. Man, it's just a lot of waffling. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're going to have to bring the waffle maker in, because now all the same people who are like, yeah, you know, cut the pay, get rid of her. Well, they didn't say get rid of her, but they were like, you know, defund, cut the pay out of City Hall. Now it's like these gracious exit tweets. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, people going on the radio. It's like, man, if you feel some kind of way, feel some kind of way.
Right.
And the people will really respect your opinion for feeling that kind of way. They might not agree with you, but they'll respect. But I see some backpedaling from some of the city council members yesterday. You know, some of them went on radio shows we ain't never heard them on before. It's like, bro, is this the same channel? What's going on? So anyways, we'll say that for another show.
Wow.
Big national news. And we used to talk about the election a lot before all of this, and we got to figure out, man, it's coming up quickly.
100 days or so, less than 100 days.
It's coming up quickly, and Vice President Biden announced Kamala Harris as his vice presidential pick yesterday. Can you play that clip, all and we'll discuss here a little bit after the break, after the clip. Apparently, it wasn't even worth playing the video for what was there. The big news is that was just a report, though. But in the report, it was from CNBC. But it was real interesting because it's like, okay, this is great. You know, Biden has made a decision and everything else, and it's this black woman who's multicultural. Her father from Jamaica, her mom from India, and her journey here in America, also growing up in Canada, everything else. And so they're like, well, you know, does Kamala Harris, does she activate the black base? Like there's one base. Right. But does she activate the black base? But a whole other side of it is that she used to be a prosecutor, an attorney general, and everything else. And you got a lot of people who are very active in politics right now who are like defund across the country. And Biden, said he's like, man, I'm not with this defund. And then, you know, you got Kamala Harris, who's really been law and order. That's really been her career as far as law and order. So it'd be interesting to be like, okay, does this black woman come in and activate, you know, the base, or is it her background coming in as law and order and everything else, and some of the questionable decisions that she made as Attorney General in California, is that going to come back to haunt her as well with black people?
Well, yeah, I think that you're so smart to bring up this point, because this is where we are right now. So many people are doing research that they've never done before. They are digging deeper on these candidates. They are digging very deep. And ultimately, I think a lot of people are wanting to make sure that they are not surprised. So many times we think, oh man, we love, you know, this candidate really resonates with me. I'm loving the way that they're positioning. I'm loving what they're talking about. And then you find out, oh my God, like, you know, you were in blackface in the 80s, or, you know, whatever it is. It's like these surprises that come out of nowhere. You know, I just one example, right? Yeah. But it's like you find out these things that end up being like, wait a minute, how do you embody all of those things that really resonated with me, and also this maybe mess up history?
Well, the thing that people have been saying all along about black people not being a monolith and everything else, and it kind of gets, people just kind of like, yeah, we're not all the same or whatever. You're seeing it more and more every election. Yeah. And where there used to be a silver bullet to be like, oh, okay, well, this candidate is going to be whatever. I don't think there's a silver bullet in the black community right now. I think that black people are going to vote around the issues that are the most important to them. Yeah. And I mean, the vehicle of that might be voting Republican or Democrat. But at this point, I mean, I'll say this. Is the camera on me? This is good. So, you know, I'm not a hyper political person, but a lot of people saw me tweet yesterday. Let me bring this up to you too. A lot of people saw me tweet yesterday asking the city council who they've been talking to. You know, nobody's reached back out yet. And just asking for transparency about who they've been talking to in the black community. And by the way, the only people who pushed back on me on that were white people. Like none of the black organizations were like, don't be asking. It was other people, right? Can I hit the camera, please? And so what I want to say is this, is that all of those charts that I put in my tweet yesterday, all of those charts there have all those declines in black community we see under Democratic mayors, Democratic city councils. So, you know what I'm saying? Just somebody throwing out Democrat. At least when it comes to this city right here, man, it's been constant decline under your leadership. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who tells me if next candidate for mayor, Democrat, man, you're going to have to put more than put a D in front of your name or something like that. City council, Democrat, because literally under your watch, black people in this city have declined. So, you know, we're going to have to, it's a discussion to be had, you know, as we move more into this political sector. Yeah. But I mean, definitely, I mean, for city of Seattle, in elected positions here, I mean, your name is part and parcel of the decline of black stature, wealth, economic progress, and education in this city.
That's just the truth. And at the end of the day, I think so many people are, like I just said, digging for that truth. And there we have it. I think there's a misnomer in politics that there's this guise that, well, when you're, you're Democratic, you're for all the people. That's better for all people. And unfortunately, when you start pulling out the statistics, you can actually see the numbers don't always support that. A lot of people want to demonize one side or the other, but let's just stay focused on the facts. Let's be educated by the facts.
Let me just tell you, Trey, Seattle for sure is one of the most liberal cities in America, 100%. But at the same time, how has that liberalism benefited black people? See, Seattle is the same kind of city where somebody would be like, well, I voted for Barack and I saw Michelle down there at the book tour, but me and Daryl will be walking through their neighborhood and they'll be like, we see some suspicious black people.
Right.
So, I mean, don't be fooled by that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's liberal, it's closet whatever, cloaked in liberalism here in Seattle. Because if super liberalism was great for black folks, all those things I tweeted out yesterday would be inclined. Man, great paying jobs. Look at home ownership. The same people who voted for Barack, and man, and here's Barack's coffee table book, are the same people that are pushing black people out in the Central District, gentrifying the Central District, pushing black people. These are the same people. I mean, this is what I'm saying. And so it's a big liberal lie in Seattle. It's a lie, and Seattle needs to stop telling that lie. And this lie has been being told for almost 140 years since William Gross first bought 12 acres of land from Henry Yesler in what's now the Central District. It's been a lie. Yeah. And man, Seattle need to stop living that lie, because like I said, the same people who claim to be so liberal in this city are the same people that will call the police because we look suspicious.
Yep,
and they'll tell you, and then you'll tell me, Barack, I love him. Wish he could run for a third term.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But then be like, 911, suspicious black people in my neighborhood.
Right.
Or the same people who are hiring managers. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us here, our algorithm isn't right for LinkedIn.
Right.
Imagine. I couldn't get no job here.
Right.
Amazon wouldn't hire me.
Right.
T-Mobile wouldn't hire me. Microsoft wouldn't hire me. Nobody. The same person who's a hiring manager over here who voted for Obama and voted for Durkin's the same person who sees a name like Omari or sees a name like whatever, and it's like, I don't know.
Right.
So, I'm not convinced. If you're a real deal Seattle liberal, I think you guys, the people, I think even the liberal movement maybe here has been co-opted as well. Everything else has been co-opted in this city.
Well, you know what? I'll just say though that this is literally national discourse. This is what some folks are talking about in some of the major media streams that are really focused on politics. Is that this liberalism, this idea of liberalism, has literally been co-opted by some that are the white elites also that get more upset about a situation involving people of color when they are not that. They're the ones to be on the front line and be the most upset. And ultimately, again, this is why people are like, well, has the Black Lives Matter movement been co-opted, by white people? And some people are like, yeah, it has. But I think that there's an awakening that's happening. And one of the things that I want to pinpoint is that you're so right in terms of, I'm all about, Black Lives Matter. I got the sign in my window, you know what I mean? But yet, hey, I'm not really sure about those black people over there. And I think this sentiment has been growing in Seattle so hardcore. Gentrification has exponentiated
I'm all about Black Lives. Let me upzone what the city council sold the black community out out on. Let me go ahead and upzone and put an apartment building next to somebody like Ruby Holland and drive her taxes through the roof. So now another black homeowner is pushed out of the Central District.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. You know, I just thought about it. There's an old saying that it's not that the system is broken. The system was just never built for you.
That's right.
And so Seattle liberalism isn't broken. It was just never built for us.
There we go. And
That's
I think
all.
that you're so right there. And this is why this moment in time and this momentum, this movement is so vital, so critical to make sure that people understand that we're talking about equity. Black lives are at the front of this because literally Black and Native families are the ones that have the least amount of wealth in this country. And you cannot deny those numbers, period, point blank.
Definitely cannot. Trey, we might have to start a politics.
I know, you know, hold on, man. We get into it, man. You know it. Well, we're passionate about our people and about our community,
passionate
man.
about it. And it's time for people to stop lying.
There we go.
You know what I'm saying? All you false flagging liberals out there, stop lying. You know, if you really care about black people, be about black people. But man, don't hide behind the cloak of, oh, I'm a liberal and I'm this and that and I love Obama and everything else, man. And put a Black Lives Matter sign in your house and everything else. If you're not part of the solution, man, you're just being fake. You're part of the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, liberalism here in Seattle, you know, that's the system works well. It was just never built for black people.
There we go.
So it ain't like the system don't work. It works well for them. Believe me, it's just not working for us. And men lie, women lie, the numbers don't lie. And we put the numbers out there. Before we go to break, we're bringing on Nikita Oliver after the break. A very interesting viewpoint right here. This was actually, we got some footage that was filmed from Proof in the Play. That's our guy, Central District.
Love my brother, man.
Proof's been at it for a long time. A lot of people know him as a sports producer. He has a lot of different sports shows. But you know, this time right now here in America, everybody who's professional with the camera is bringing it out. And so Proof was there at the Uncle Ike's protest the other day. I think that was Friday night. And Eric Calligraphy, you'll see in this segment, and then also Inye Danish, who's in this segment. And basically, and this is just crazy how it breaks down in the hood. And so Ike ends up, the security that he ends up hiring over there is all black security from the hood. And so you've got black people from the neighborhood who are out in front of Uncle Ike's, and then the protesters come down to the Uncle Ike's. And we see that in this clip that Eric is like, so some of the protesters feel that they want to spit on some of the security that's over there and calling them, you know, all kinds of names and, you know, and everything else. And you see that it was like, Eric was like, man, you know, people come down and they say Black Lives Matter. Here's a black life. Somebody sitting there trying to work that clearly is caught up in a much bigger thing. No, Ian know what he's doing, man. You know what I'm saying? Uncle, he know what he's doing. But I just thought that when we came across this, I thought that it would be interesting to give a different perspective. And the other thing here is one of the guys from our neighborhood, well respected, who was out there working that night. And you got the protesters, that group of protesters chanting at him like, hey, Black Lives Matter, quit your job, this other stuff. It's just very interesting to get a different viewpoint from people on the ground working that day, thus on the security for Uncle Ike's at the protest.
Whatever I told you,
yeah, some of it is misdirected because they should. Yeah, protest Uncle Ike's what you want, right? But my friends shouldn't be getting spit on, right? Somebody spit on one of them earlier, right? You know what I'm saying?
before you guys even got here.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
People shouldn't be threatened, right? Because they're just trying to do their job. The same way we let Metro buses and ambulance workers, right? We can let them.
Yeah, they shouldn't get spit on.
As much as we want, right? But we cannot protest these men and them being here.
Punk ass saltine, motherfucker, got me fucked up. Talking about Black Lives Matter. Fuck y'all. We were born here. How you gonna tell me my life? I know my life matters, stupid. You guys don't even know what the fuck you guys are screaming about. Just trendy. I've been going through this shit my whole fucking life. Resident of the Central District. Fuck y'all. The high heels of good neighborhoods, because you guys ain't never lived it. I live it every day. I live right fucking there. My dad lives around the corner my whole fucking life. 739-625. That's my DOC number. Oliver. Who got one of those? Who got one of those? That don't 739-625. What's yours?
1115 MLK.
That's your address. That ain't your lifestyle, buddy.
You know, it's crazy. It was like a comment by Ingrid there, but he was like, that's your address, not your lifestyle, buddy. So maybe kind of pointing out the actual gap between people who are from the city, live in the city, working in the city, trying to make something happen over there, and then people come in to protest in the city as well. You know, I mean, it's a tough situation.
I think you said it earlier, though, that really, for me, that's what resonates here. You know, when we talk about Uncle Ike's, Ian, the owner of Uncle Ike's, he knows what he's doing, right? He knew that, you know, there was going to be some tension, you know, around his shop, weed shop, being right next to Mount Calvary Christian Center. And there was some pushback from the community. They didn't really want that there. You know, again, that corner historically being responsible for locking up so many black and brown bodies, whether they're men or women, regarding marijuana charges. And then he's able to be right there on that iconic block in the Central District. Again, you know, almost 140 years black people been there, and come there and make hand over fist money. But he knew that he was going to have to protect himself and immerse himself somewhat in the black community by giving opportunities. And so I think that that's how his mind thought, well, okay, well, I don't care about your development. I don't care about the history of this place. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. And I think this is where, again, the education right now is so vital and so key. I keep saying it because, you know, had those young men or even older men, whatever, understand this dynamic that he's playing, kind of even against them without them really understanding it. Yeah, he's paying higher wages. I've heard all the stories about, you know, how he is in the industry, and it's giving some, you know, they're at least able to kind of live and work in the CD, working there. But again, it's very convoluted. And I think I just want people to be educated about this, because you're right. He knows exactly what he's doing by hiring those people.
I think the flip side of that as well is that, you know, if Black Lives Matter, I don't think that it's a la carte. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that it's pick and choose.
Right.
Those guys who are out there working in security from the neighborhood, live in the block, I mean, no one deserves to get spit on.
No one.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, some of those things. So anyways, we'll be following this up more, but we just thought that it's important to give all these different viewpoints. That's why Converge is here. You know, sometimes we you know, come across some different things. I think it's important to share with the community kind of what we're seeing. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we and she's always got a lot to say.
A lot of great things to say.
On all kinds of topics. We come back, we got Nikita Oliver in the building. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
There's a lot going on. Are you ready? Ready to feel better, look better, be better? Drink water. Be ready for a pickup game. Insta-frame to work hard towards your aim. Drink water. Hydrate. Hydrate to invest in yourself. Cut down on sugar. Invest in your health. Imagine the possibilities and reach your potential. Who knows what's next? Be ready. Be hydrated.
Do you want to represent your city? Now you can. The City of Seattle's Democracy Voucher Program is now open. Candidates interested in using democracy vouchers to help finance their campaign for 2021 may begin qualifying now. In 2021, the mayor, city attorney, and the 2 city council at-large positions will be on the ballot. The Democracy Voucher Program has $6.8 million available for local candidates to fund their campaigns. Running a competitive campaign can be costly, and access to funding can serve as a barrier to entry for potential candidates. The Seattle Ethics and Elections Commission is offering one-on-one trainings for potential candidates who want to explore how to access the democracy vouchers. Interested candidates can contact the Democracy Voucher Program at 206-727-8855 or email democracyvoucher@seattle.gov. For more information, you can also visit seattle.gov/democracyvoucher.
All right, welcome back to the morning update show. And as promised, in this segment, we have community organizer Nikita Oliver.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nikita,
So glad to be here.
What's up, man?
You know, a lot is up. A lot is up. It's going down and up and sideways in this city.
You know, I know me and you don't agree on everything. Like most people don't agree on everything. But right now, Nikita, I'm gonna tell you, I agree with you that everything in this city is going up, down, and sideways. This wasn't a question in the original questions I had for you, but I saw that you were making a comment about the clip we just played right there, Uncle Ike's. So I wanted you, what was your thought about that dynamic that played out there?
Yeah, you know, I wish that protest had gone down a little bit differently. You know, what would it have looked like to show care for the security team, knowing that they are Black and brown peoples, their Black lives do matter, while simultaneously being able to call out Ian and Uncle Ike's for literally making hand over fist in an industry that Black people are being systematically kept out of accessing license or even the ability to profit off of it, and yet we're the ones who made it popular, and so we have to take risk to even participate in it, like criminalization, as we've been criminalized for it for a very long time. So I think we can all learn and we can all grow our nuance and our analysis, and I think as a movement in this city, that is a protest that as organizers, we have to learn from and figure out how do we treat Black folks who have to sustain, they have to survive, they have to make money, and so they take jobs in industries. How do we treat them with love and care? Acknowledging that corporations from sports to the cannabis industry have had predominantly white male owners and use Black and brown people as security or as low-level employees historically and presently. That is a tactic of white supremacy.
Right. I know that we have Aaron Bossett, who's going to be coming on probably next week to talk about the Black Cannabis Commission and talk about the gap, I guess you would say, but with Black people, or really it's not even a gap. A lot of verticals there is non-existent. There's Black people aren't participating, and when we talk about somebody like me who's talking about Black people with higher paying jobs and in home ownership, that should be an industry that, I mean, with the people of the state of Washington should want to be able to get more access to Black people into this cannabis industry out there.
But instead, we've been systematically prohibited, and that, you know, it reflects upon the past criminalization and now the prohibition of us having access.
Right. So one of the top stories, of course, right now, and the news cycles these days are fast, but Chief Best retirement, and I went to Twitter.
Don't get called out now.
Oh man, I know how you are about these tweets. So and I have two tweets here. There's one where you kind of mentioned Chief Best, and there's another one where you talk about Mayor Durkin and Michael Solon from SPOG. So this tweet here, do we have this one up? Okay. It's interesting how Seattle sees a Black woman when Best is resigning from being the head of a racist institution like the police, but Charlene Lyle's family still hasn't received even an inquest. Y'all selectively see Black women when we are serving and protecting the status quo. Did you want to expand upon that?
Yeah, I just think, you know, Charlene Lyle's family has been languishing for 3 years to get not even justice, just a fact finding. That's all an inquest is. It's an investigation. It's a look into what happened. And I don't see Seattle rising up for Charlene and her family. In fact, we'll be in the street sometimes saying, say her name, and they'll say Breonna Taylor, but they won't say Charlene Lyles. And Breonna Taylor matters, and at the same time, there are Black women in our city who are being brutalized by the Seattle Police Department, who have been murdered, and people forget to even say her name. And here we have Carmen Best, who chose to be a police officer, who has chose to hold the blue line, who has defended Seattle Police Department's actions throughout all of these protests, and in fact has said this is a premier police department. And the city kind of loses its mind over her choosing. She made a choice. She chose to resign because of the city council cutting pay. She said in the press conference she didn't want to have to decide which officers to let go, and that decision was too hard, so she decided to resign. Nowhere in that press conference did she directly, really deeply say, I have been mistreated as a black woman. And so it's frustrating to see the city decide
the community. A lot of the community and what we see here, we saw Ron Sims. We see a lot of people on TV. We saw Victoria Beach and a few other people, and they're expressly saying that a lot of what happened, at least on the city council portion of it, was because of her blackness and being a black woman.
The city council responded to the demands of the Black Lives Matter movement, which was to defund the Seattle Police Department. I think people lack knowledge of what the collective bargaining agreement actually prevents the city council from cutting without having to go through a very lengthy set of legal challenges. The CBA protects certain officers and certain jobs, and so they chose to go with a section of the budget that isn't protected in the same way, which happens to include the highest paid salaries in the department, which I believe are mostly the executive team that works with the chief. And so as a result of the technicality set out by the collective bargaining agreement, they had to make cuts in very specific ways in order to make sure that they could try, and I say try because they're not at 50%, they could try to meet the demands of the movement while simultaneously avoiding extensive legal battles that would prevent them from getting money quickly into community.
Right, and what are your thoughts on, and this is chief, was the chief of police, well actually still is resigning or retiring here shortly, this black woman, person of color, and the apparent silo between the city council and the chief. Now, we had Chief Best here on Monday, and a lot of communication with Chief Best. She said that the city council has basically refused to communicate with her. When we talked to the city council, a lot of city council people have said, well, we'll talk to the mayor. She works underneath the mayor. Do you find anything wrong in that you have a council majority people of color, none who are black on the council, and they're not talking to the chief of police, this black woman?
So there's a few things there.
Sure.
The first is I can definitely acknowledge that being a black woman in any institution is a challenge, wherever you work, because we live in a world that is inherently, and the space is inherently racist, it's white supremacist. It is a challenge for black women to move through the world. And I am certain that Chief Best has faced significant challenges as a black woman in especially policing, as it is a very white supremacist institution. So I'm willing, I see that, I feel that, and I feel for the pain she probably has gone through in terms of her career. I cannot emphasize enough two things. She chose to be in that field. And also, if we're really going to get to a world that achieves true public health and public safety, some of us are going to lose our jobs. In the line of work that I do in mitigation with young people trying to keep them out of the school to prison pipeline, I hope to work myself out of a job. That the work we've done is so effective in dismantling the school to prison pipeline that one day my role is not needed. The truth of the matter is, if we're going to defund the police, jobs are going to be lost and jobs will be cut, and people are going to transition, they're going to need to transition into new lines of work. That being said, when it comes to whether or not the Seattle City Council is communicating with Chief Best, there are reports that the police could be giving and should have been giving to the Seattle City Council around how they spend their budget, what their budget looks like. I've actually gone to council chambers and listened to the chief and her team speak to the Seattle City Council about what they are or are not doing. An inquest was done into their budget, and as you pointed out, the executive, Mayor Durkin, is Chief Best's boss. And she is able to, as a part of the executive branch, put out a plan. In fact, she wrote the first version of the budget, and the job of the Seattle Council is to then take that budget and present a rebalanced one that she can either veto or accept.
Okay, and speaking of Mayor Durkin, and her name's kind of been silent the last few days. They're watching like, damn, we gonna bring her. Yeah, another tweet here from the Twitter sphere. You got this one, Alia? Yeah. All right. It says, Mike Solon, for people watching, Mike Solon is the president of SPOG, the Seattle Police Officers Guild, the police union. Mike Solon and Durkin are enjoying their white privilege as 65% white Seattle attacks the predominantly woman of color city council for hearing the defund demands of the BLM, the Black Lives Matter movement, and blames them for Best's resignation. The real culprits are Mike and Jenny, who are scapegoating accountability.
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember when the collective bargain agreement went into place. I think it was 2018, the new one that they had to do all the back pay on. And in terms of the CBA process, SPOG and the mayor's office play a very significant role in determining what the collective bargaining agreement looks like. That CBA was very combative when it came to the accountability legislation. There were major concerns about it essentially overturning lots of work that people had done to bring some amount of accountability to Seattle Police Department. It also, it is what sets up the structure that makes it hard to be able to cut aspects of the budget without having to look specifically at certain areas that won't have these immediate legal contentions. The mayor is the chief's boss, and she has taken absolutely no accountability for the failures to see transformation in the Seattle Police Department. She's taken no accountability for the failures around the protest. In fact, if you watch the press conference, anytime a protest question comes up, she throws it back to the chief. She's literally taken no accountability.
Yeah, I don't know what the mayor gonna do. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, that's a whole nother issue right there. I mean, she's just stayed right here on it with Chief Best. What do you think? I have my question right here. When it comes down to, you said that the mayor is the chief's boss, and we've seen that before. What do you think? How do you think the mayor has responded to this, to even listening to people like you guys? It's a lot of coalitions under this movement, but some of the coalitions that you're a part of. I mean, has there even been a listening ear down there?
There has not. At every turn, you watch the mayor defend the Seattle Police Department, and you hear her co-opt progressive language when she speaks. You were just talking about this earlier in the segment. Democrats co-opting the language of movements, but not actually attaching real action to it. I ran against Mayor Durkin in the 2017 election. I heard her talking points. In fact, many of them were mine, and they were taken. And so to then see absolutely no action on these things in 3 years, it's very disturbing.
So a lot of people will say, and there's even council members who voted for defund one way or another. Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to work through this defund thing. I got to call Kevin Schofield, SCC, so he can take me through the final analysis. But before the George Floyd, we call it George Floyd protest, which have now turned into this Black Lives Matter movement across America. But before the protest, a lot of people would say nobody in Seattle really had a problem with Chief Best. The numbers, and I didn't have a slide for this. I didn't know we were going to go this direction. But the number of incidents of force have come down over the years. Other city council members were actually trying to put more money into the Seattle Police Department. Chief Best was kind of looked on as somebody who was almost iconic in the community. Mm-hmm. She's put years of work into building relationships and across the Central District, different programs, and across the city and everything else. So what is it that changed so drastically that the May 1st, the city of Seattle, for the most part, the vocal part of the city, people didn't have a problem with Chief Best, and people didn't have a problem with all these things. And now here we are right now, less than 2 or 3 months later, where we get to this point.
I mean, let's dial back a little bit. Mm-hmm. When the new chief was selected, Chief Best was not even in Mayor Durkin's top 3. There had to be a community uproar, and I would say of mostly Black elders who fought to have Chief Best get that position. And there was a huge segment of actually young people who didn't want Chief Best to have that position, and for 2 reasons. The first being, we knew that she would be used as a scapegoat for accountability on the part of the mayor. Like there was actually a group of people that knew it was not going to turn out well for her, especially if there was a new uprising of the Black Lives Matter movement, because this is not the first uprising that has occurred. Right. The second thing is, we say, while certain types of use of force have gone down, there was a report in the Seattle Times about Black and brown people still being stopped at higher rates than white community members. We have seen 2 murders since by police officers. And we've seen no accountability on those. We've actually seen the Seattle Police Department and the Seattle City Attorney at one point in time be fighting the inquest reform process. And so we can say that there was no contention. It just was not as widely publicized. There was not as much media talking about what were the issues. And this, I really have to hit this point home. It is not an issue, it's not a personal issue with Chief Best. Chief Best is a Black woman and she's a part of our community. And as a Black person, I welcome her as another Black person with open arms, like you are in our community. That being said, this is about an institution that is steeped in racism and has continued to perpetuate and have racist outcomes. She happens to be the chief of it, and as a part of this defund movement, jobs are going to be lost, work is going to be transitioned out, and the ultimate hope is we get to better public health and public safety for Black people, Indigenous people, and for communities of color, because that public health and public safety return on our investment does not exist.
Right. It's good to hear you. I'm glad that you clarified. I mean, clearly you have your position and statement. It's good to also hear you clarify to say it's not personal. This is a Black woman, and part of the Twitter's not so kind.
It's not kind. It's not built for kind discourse.
It's not built for. You're right. It's not built for kind discourse. People would call me I'm slow motion on there or something. I'm too polite on Twitter. So something I wanted to bring up. Back to City Council is transparency at City Council. Now, I will say this. When I asked Mayor Durkin, who in the Black community are you talking to? Because she's on the hook for this $100 million that she's promised the Black folks next month when she unveils her budget. And I was asking early on, like, man, who are you talking to? But even separate from the money, the mayor has continuously used the words reimagine and recreate and everything else, which is cool. And I'm like, well, if you guys are reimagining a new city for all of us, we need to know who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. And we kind of put some pressure there. And the mayor sent us a 4-page list of, man, these are all the Black people that we're talking to. And some Black people were like, yeah. Some Black people were like, well, it didn't really go down like that. But either way, the mayor's office gave us a list. Same with Chief Best. I was like, well, what have you been doing in the community? We haven't really seen you. Well, all right, you're just not everywhere, okay? And the PIO, the same day, sent a list. And we're wanting to know from the city council members who have a very crucial role here in charting the course of things that are supposed to be life-changing for our Black community, things that 10 years from now, the things that we do today that are substantial, we'll see. Maybe you'll, like you said, you'll be worked yourself out of a job because the prison to pipeline has stopped now. It's, prison to or for school to PhD, you know what I'm saying, instead of school to prison. And so if city council is crafting all of this, I think it's important that they're transparent, one with us, the community, but all the stakeholders of the city of Seattle, of like, who are they talking to? And the interesting thing is, I'll just tell you this, I put out there on Twitter, and people hit me back like, well, they're talking to D-Crime, they're talking to King County Equity Now, they're talking to Everyday March, which I think is important. They should be talking to all of these kind of different groups. But that's not it, and the funny thing I was going to tell you is the only people who pushed back on me about asking for transparency from the city council were white people. And I'm glad that you're here because, I know you don't speak for everybody, and today you're here from as a community organizer. Do you have a problem with me or anybody else wanting full transparency from the Seattle City Council as to who they're talking to and crafting this Black agenda that they're trying to put forth?
Absolutely not. I mean, I 100% transparency and accountability. In fact, the platform I ran on for mayor, transparency and accountability were at the forefront of that conversation because there's too many backdoor deals, too many backdoor conversations. And there are 9 city council members, 7 of them with districts. And I hope that the ones with districts are talking to people that live in their districts. I hope that, they have staff of at least 3 to 4 people. They should have capacity to be having those conversations. And I don't think there's anything wrong with asking them to be transparent about it. They're elected public officials, right? That's public information.
Right. Oh, yeah. Can I get this camera, please? All right, city council members. But city council members, hear ye, hear ye. We want to know who you talking to in the black community. You know, matter of fact, you guys should be rushing to give that information. We want to know who's crafting your policy, who's helping, who you're talking to. As a black person from the Central District, a voter and a citizen of Seattle, and on behalf of all the rest of our citizen stakeholders, council members, we want to know who you're talking to. Let us know.
And I would say I'd like to know who they're talking to in other communities. There are certainly communities that are against defund, and there are council members that are against it. And I want to know who they're talking to as well. For me as an organizer, that kind of transparency and accountability actually lends integrity to my work. And so I 100% support this man's request.
There you go. It's got a stamp. So defund for me, my big talking points, and I haven't really been talking much. I've been listening for the last 2.5 months. We've had you on the show plenty of times. We've had the police on the show. We've had the mayor on the show. We've had different organizations anybody from Recall. Durkin's been on the show. Black Collective Voice has been on the show, and countless protesters have been on the show. And for me now, looking at this and coming out kind of as what my community member had on, I'm like, for me, I think that the black community, we need better, higher paying jobs. Like I said, we need home ownership, which builds generational wealth. We need better schools. And when I tweeted that out yesterday, I got some real interesting comments. And on both sides of that, one comment was like, well, good luck getting there through defund. And then other comments were, well, defund is the first step of trying to achieve some of those things. And so where does defund go from here, and what's sustainable thing? Because another thing is that initially, at least when I look at it, and when reading it, I got to talk to Kevin, so don't hold it against me, is a lot of these funds are going into social programs that ultimately could as well be defunded. Where does this movement go next to things that are sustainable and sustainable by the black community, and something that turns that chart the other way and going this way?
I think there are people who have just now jumped into this work. Y'all were talking earlier about the people intensely finally looking at elected officials before they vote. There are people who've just now started thinking about abolition as a framework. And abolition is both about dismantling these racist structures. It's even more about building the structures that work for people. And there are those of us who have been in this work for a long time and know that it's actually much more holistic than just defunding the police. As it relates to the harm and the lack of public safety and public health for black communities, defund is an important step. And to be honest, it's not the first step we've taken. We've had campaigns starting from 2010 when we first when Native communities rose up and got the DOJ to come do an investigation into the police. We have the No New Youth Jail campaign. We have Block the Bunker. And King County now has the Zero Youth Detention whole framework about moving young people out of that system and into other places. And Best Starts for Kids, while it's not enough, was based upon the work of No New Youth Jail, inspiring this idea that there are many other systems: education, economic and employment opportunity, health, clean food, clean water. These are all areas that have to improve in order to change the conditions that black people live in for those wealth disparities and health disparities to be addressed. So defund is a part of a much more holistic body of work. And this is why earlier on in the protest, when people were complaining, and I think I talked to you about this, they were like, why aren't all the black people out in the streets? Why isn't White King in the streets? Why isn't Gregory Davis in the streets?
Yeah,
it's because they were doing, it's because they were doing important work on other front lines around land development, around economic development, around education. And there are so many organizations that, especially through this defund work, that we will be able to scale up and invest more in, that are working in those other areas that you're talking about. So it has to be holistic. We have to think about defund as a part of a much greater framework for changing the conditions that black people have been forced to live in for hundreds of years here in this place.
Right. I have one more question, but I think I need to throw one other in there. And then just a comment here real quick. Somebody said, what was it, yesterday? We were talking, they were like, man, someone needs to defund Seattle Public Schools. They got $1 billion budget and then put it back together. That might be the actual fatted lamb when people are talking about a defund movement is a $1 billion school district where people are or whatever.
And King County Equity now has very clear education demands. I encourage people to go look at those.
And just to be clear, I'm not sitting down there advocating defunding Seattle Public Schools, but that was an interesting comment that someone made there. And just briefly, because you brought up the youth jail, we had Executive Constantine on here. He talked about a plan 2025 to close the jail, to convert it to not having people
to repurpose it.
Repurpose. Thank you. Can you explain quickly, because a lot of people here know no youth jail, and a lot of people here, okay, open the cells of maybe people who've committed violent crimes and let them out the streets. And that's not necessarily what Executive Constantine said, is that you want to be able to put a framework together so no one is reaching the point that they have to be incarcerated. Is that the way it works?
Executive Constantine's letter he put out probably could have been taken directly from the No New Youth Jail website, to be 100% honest and frank. I think it's two-sided. The first is there are community organizations like Community Passageways, Choose 180, the folks that Coach Dominique Davis is working with around violence intervention and prevention, Paul Patou and his group. All of these groups have been building frameworks for probably 10 years that young people that are currently in that facility could enter into and have safe passage through and in community and have tons of supports. The failure we're going to see if we have to wait till 2025 to repurpose that facility into something actually useful for community, and in particular Black and Native community, is we're going to continue investing mass amounts of money in a system we know isn't working, and now he has said is not working and is not the best option for our kids. We'll spend 5 more years incarcerating youth in that facility. As of 2 weeks ago, there were only 19 young people in that building. And the amount of money that we spend on the courts, on the incarceration, on the staff, if we were to significantly invest that money into providing supports, structure, safety, care for those 19 young people and their family and for the communities that they live in, we could actually provide those supports, provide that safety, provide the case management, mental health services that are needed, and also begin to repurpose that building into something useful. He's now acknowledged it's not the right pathway. He ran hard down that pathway and spent $240 million. And just to put that in perspective, $240 million could run Creative Justice, the program I'm co-executive director of, for 480 years.
Man, that's a lot of bread.
But that's 480 years. And the work that we do has been able to support young people and keep them from recidivating at a much higher level than the court system or the prison system does. So we really have to keep in perspective that 5 more years of that is a fiscal investment in a system that not only doesn't work, but is doing harm. So we need to move much quicker to repurpose. I'm glad Executive Constantine has now realized what the No New Youth Jail movement has been telling him since 2012. Let's make it happen much quicker, because we've already waited 8 years.
Right. My last question for you, and I know we've gone over time. I just like to have conversations with people. I talk a lot about the Emerald City that we all deserve. That's one of my things, especially when Chop was there and everything else. We talk about that a lot on the stream. At the end of the day, when this is over with or resolved, that I'm hopeful that we, the citizen stakeholders of Seattle, that we get the Emerald City that we all deserve. And I'm just curious and asking you, what's your vision of the Emerald City that the people deserve?
It is one that makes sure that everyone who wants to come inside, who wants to have a home, has one. It is an Emerald City where every young person who goes to a school that has all of the technology, all of the access, all of the supports they deserve, and is not dependent upon whether or not they have a wealthy PTA that can provide them with those teachers or that technology. It is a city where people who do struggle with drug addiction or mental health can access services in a way that is actually self-empowered and self-determined, and we don't judge people for dealing with drug addiction. Instead, we respond with compassion and care. It is a city that recognizes racial trauma, generational and present, and knows that that is steeped in white supremacy, and actually does the work to uproot those things and figure out how we can truly live anti-racist. It is a city that hears the voices of people who are disenfranchised and marginalized, and recognizes that those folks have brilliant solutions, and that when we are put in the position to actually see those solutions happen, we actually make the city better for everyone. I think the thing that I have struggled with most, because part of my theory of change is believing that those most affected also have the brilliance to bring the solution we need, is that there is this belief that expertise is only built upon having letters behind your name. And the truth of the matter is, expertise lives in lived experience. And there are people in our city who have the lived experience to help us be healthier, stronger, and better, that white supremacy, that economic class divisions, that sexism says that their voices, we might want to hear your voice, but we don't trust your expertise. And a city that I want to live in is one that brings those folks to the center, hears their voice, resources their ideas, and makes sure that everyone gets to live healthy, whole, and thriving.
All right, man, that's a broad vision. You know
We can get there. We can get there.
We got some work to do on your end. But Nikita, thank you so much. Every time we reach out, you always find time for us, and I think that it's important right now in our city and what's going on that people do hear different viewpoints, different perspectives, and everything else. And so I'm always thankful for you making some time for us. Before you get out of here, how can people follow up with you, keep up with you?
Yeah, I would recommend, you can tweet me. I'll do my best to respond in a way that, welcomes positive discourse. Twitter's hard. It's hard. You don't be knowing who's a bot and who's for real. I recommend following at Decriminalize Seattle, following the Everyday March, because I have to give it to props to that squad. They stay in the streets every night. They've been bold. If it wasn't for the work that they've been doing and the way they've been doing it, I don't think that city council members would have engaged the conversation the way that they have. So shout out to them and the diversity of tactics. Follow King County Equity Now and the work that's happening there. Follow council members like Girmay Zahalai. He is one of the only Black electeds in our region right now. In terms of having a lot of visibility, there are others in other cities. We have to support those folks. Otherwise, they'll get into office and the office will change them more than they change the office. It's movements that make change, and electeds who listen ride that wave. So let's support them.
All right. Nikita Oliver, thank you for joining us today on the Morning Update Show. And look, we've gone long, so it's now the Afternoon Update Show. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Trey Holiday returns to the set. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
There's a lot going on. Are you ready? Ready to feel better, look better, be better? Drink water. Be ready for a pickup game. Insta-frame to work hard towards your aim? Drink water. Hydrate. Hydrate to invest in yourself. Cut down on sugar. Invest in your health. Imagine the possibilities and reach your potential. Who knows what's next? Be ready. Be hydrated.
Do you want to represent your city? Now you can. The City of Seattle's Democracy Voucher Program is now open. Candidates interested in using democracy vouchers to help finance their campaign for 2021 may begin qualifying now. In 2021, the mayor, city attorney, and the 2 city council at-large positions will be on the ballot. The Democracy Voucher Program has $6.8 million available for local candidates to fund their campaigns. Running a competitive campaign can be costly, and access to funding can serve as a barrier to entry for potential candidates. The Seattle Ethics and Elections Commission is offering one-on-one trainings for potential candidates who want to explore how to access the democracy vouchers. Interested candidates can contact the Democracy Voucher Program at 206-727-8855 or email democracyvoucher@seattle.gov. For more information, you can also visit seattle.gov/democracyvoucher.
Welcome back.
I was about to say we're twinning.
Love it.
Morning update show. This is your favorite part of the show.
You know it, man. I mean, anytime we can uplift amazing people, amazing works in the Black community, you know I'm all about that melanin magic.
All right, so we talked about Kamala Harris earlier in the first segment, and our segment got politicized.
Yeah.
But we wanted to air this today for our Melanin Magic. A lot of people don't know that Shirley Chisholm, 1972, Shirley Chisholm, she ran for president, out of New York. And I got this clip right here. This is from People Magazine, People TV. And it's just a short profile on Shirley Chisholm. I think people should always try to kind of look back in the past and realize the shoulders that you're standing on. And so especially Black women running for office, there's lots of examples, but here today, Shirley Chisholm.
So, I mean, I couldn't grab your footage and use it to make a commercial for sneakers or something, right? There's some protections against other people using your footage to profit from it.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't Shirley Chisholm.
That was not. I was like, huh?
You guys playing a game over there. They're like, Shirley All right, we're good now? Okay, here we go. It's Shirley Chisholm.
Woman to run for president.
I am the candidate of the people of America.
Meet Shirley Chisholm. Born in Brooklyn in 1924, Shirley was raised in the neighborhood she would go on to represent in Congress. After graduating from Brooklyn College, she worked as a teacher and eventually became an education consultant for the state of New York. She developed a passion for politics and in 1968 ran for the House of Representatives with the slogan that would become her catchphrase, unbossed and unbought.
I am the only unbought and unbossed politician. And I mean that literally. And I think that you have to recognize that because I am not white and because I'm not a male, that I am not going to get the blessings of the power structure in this country.
Shirley won her seat with 67% of the vote, making her the first Black woman elected to Congress, and hired an all-female staff for her Washington office. Shirley made history again in 1972 when she announced she was running for president, the first Black woman to do that as well.
I stand before you today as a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the presidency of the United States of America.
After a hard-fought campaign, Shirley lost the nomination and returned to Congress, where she served 7 terms. In 1982, she returned to teaching and began speaking, urging young people to get involved in politics.
People, we have it within our grasp. We have it within our grip. We have it. We can turn things around in this country.
Shirley died in 2005, but her life story continues to inspire. She's been honored with a stamp and a state park, and soon a statue. Uzo Aduba will portray her on the small screen.
I want to be remembered as a catalyst for change in America.
So you see, Shirley Chisholm. Huh?
Oh my gosh, once again, such an inspiration to, the next generations. And I love that bridging the generational gap that she did, encouraging young folks to get out there. It's not just an adult game. Get yourself out there.
Yeah, but you heard what she said her slogan was, unbossed and unbought.
Yeah, I'm looking for that candidate right now.
Who's unbossed and unbought? And tomorrow, a lot of people, especially in our community, you've heard it said before, is I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's Fannie Lou Hamer. So we'll be highlighting Fannie Lou Hamer tomorrow. Absolutely. We're over time, Chief.
Yeah, time to go.
Get out of here. So any programming notes? I think we're good.
Yeah, just gotta make sure.
By the way, if you like the sweatshirts, the Converge gear, good way to support what we're doing right here is you can go to our website, whereweconverge.com. and we got sweatshirts and hoodies and t-shirts and everything else like that. And you know, those kind of purchases help us to continue to increase our production over here and kind of continue to bring you the news as we see it from the street level.
Yeah,
Any last
absolutely.
words?
You know what? Just if you're enjoying the stream, like it, tag it, share a friend, share it with a friend, do a watch party. You know, invite your friends to come and watch. I'm loving the word we're hearing on the street. So if you're enjoying what we're producing here, share it with someone you love and know.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah.
All right, till tomorrow at 11 a.m. We're out of here. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Sing it again now. The victory is won. Victory is won.